Brothers and sisters, today is a wonderful feast day. We call her our Seraphic mother, Saint Catherine of Siena, us Dominicans, because the seraphim are those angelic beings that are the closest to the throne of God, so they burn with fire. They're caught on fire by that intimate presence and knowledge that they share in God, that God has given to them. And so when we say Seraphic Mother Catherine, we're talking about her in a sense of how much she burned for love for God. Her heart was incredibly on fire with the love of God in a most incredible way. I want to share with you a little testimony around St. Catherine. There's so many things we could say about her. And firstly, actually, my same grandmother, Marino, who passed away, she used to give us the books of the saints to read, little books for children, and we would sit down and read it together. And when I was young, I came across St. Catherine of Siena. Now, I didn't really know about her from anybody else other than in this book. I discovered her for the first time, and she always caught my attention, and I always prayed to her all through my life. And when I came back into my faith and decided to come to the Dominican order, I was surprised to find out she was a Dominican. I never seemed to grasp that detail when I was young. But so I believe for me, she's always been there. And at a time in my life where I was going through my own discernment in my own religious life, I was, trying to pray to God to have more peace or a sense of the contemplation of God while in the busyness of the world. And it was a part of my life where I was leaving a more kind of cloistered part of my Dominican life, a lot of prayer, just the sense of God in that kind of separation from things and focus on God and prayer, etc., etc. Just, when we are novices. And I was now about to go to do my philosophy in Maynooth in Ireland, so leaving the house a lot and out all day in the busyness of the world, and I was still young in my faith, and I still have a lot to grow in, but at that point, my peace was more easily taken, more easily stolen from me in the busyness of things. And I would lose my recollection of God, in the middle of a campus that was secular, where God wasn't at the center. It's much more easy for us to be recollected when we're in places where God is at the center. So that's why we love going on pilgrimages to shrines, or we like going to Medjugorje. For us in Trinidad, if we go to those processions to Our Lady around the savannah, with living water, or we, La Divina Pastora, or, there's so many things that when we go to a place where God is at the focus, when we go to mass on the weekend, then it's much more easier for us for our mind and heart to withdraw from things of the world and focus upwards to the eternal things. So anyway, the point is, I was worried about this upcoming new phase for the next 1 or 2 years and the busyness. And I said, will I be able to, stay grounded? So I was back home in Trinidad, and I was praying for this. I was praying, and at the same time, I was giving a retreat on St. Catherine of Siena, a day retreat to a group of people in Trinidad. And I prayed to St. Catherine. I said, St. Catherine, help me to build what she will call the cell of the heart. And I'll come back to that in a few moments. Help me to stay grounded in contemplation and prayer and have this peace, etc. And then I said to her, am I doing justice to you by preaching? Am I presenting your doctrines properly in this group? And I was a bit cheeky. I said, give me a little sign. Give me a sign that you're with me, that I'm doing okay, and with presenting your spirituality. And so the very next day, I was in St. Finbar's, and I was serving the mass, and I was still a brother at the time. This was long before my final vows, and a lady came up to me at the end of the mass from the congregation. And as you know, in Trinidad, we're so blessed. I've been so blessed to meet people in Ireland and stuff, and there's so many wonderful, faithful people in Trinidad and in St. Finbar's as well. And this lady came up to me, and I was doing my Thanksgiving. And my first reaction was I got annoyed, because I felt, maybe sometimes in Trinidad or even in Ireland or churches, we don't give people that space sometimes to pray after mass, in the most important moments of their life, in Thanksgiving and communion. And so this lady came up to me, and my own, fallen nature, I was just saying, in my first reaction, I was like, oh, maybe, can you leave me pray for 2 more minutes? And and she said, "Excuse me, Father, don't think I'm crazy. I was leaving the church, but she wouldn't let me leave the church." And I said, "Well, who are you talking about?" And she said, "No, I went to leave." And she said, "Come here and give you this and you'll know what it's about and bless yourself." And I said, "Well, who are you talking about?" And she said, "St. Catherine of Siena." And this lady had no clue I was giving a group talk or anything, because it was a sort of a private thing. It was in a public event. And what she had in her hand was a first-class relic of St. Catherine of Siena. And so I blessed myself, and really from that day, I started to really get a grace from St. Catherine to try. And it's not perfect, but I think we can ask St. Catherine to help us build a cell of the heart where we can stay grounded in the middle of the busyness of life and have a sense of God, have an awareness of God. And even though we get distracted, we come back to that presence that God is with me, around me, and in me. And this is our peace.